Hi dear students, today we'll be talking about endocrine gland, thyroid gland. So I have done some videos on endocrine glands. If you have not watched, please watch those. So let's start with thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is a endocrine gland that is situated on the anterior aspect of the neck, embracing the trachea and the larynx. Posterior aspect of the thyroid gland, where golden colored structures can be seen. They are the parathyroid glands, which are located near the posterior border of the thyroid gland. Thyroid cartilage can be seen. Some major vessels are running very closely to the thyroid gland, like common carotid artery, internal jugular vein. Arteries supplying the thyroid gland can be seen. Veins draining the thyroid gland also can be seen in this diagram. Some muscles are also related to the lateral surface of the muscle. Sternocleidomastoid muscle can be seen in this picture. And some of the muscles which are related here, a small muscle can also be seen, which is called cricothyroid muscle. Let's see in detail. So thyroid is an endocrine gland situated on the lower part of the front and sides of the neck. So it is seen on the anterior and the lateral aspect of the neck. It is almost embracing the trachea and the larynx. This is how it looks like. The two lobes of the gland connected by isthmus. The thyroid gland secretes endocrine. It's an endocrine gland, so it secretes hormones, which regulates basal metabolic rate, metabolism of different carbohydrate, fat, protein, and so on, stimulating somatic and psychic growth, the growth of the body and the mental growth, the growth of brain, and plays an important role in calcium metabolism. So not only thyroid hormones like T3 and T4, it also secretes calcitonin that has a role in regulating calcium metabolism and calcium regulation in the blood, consisting of two lobes, right and left, connected by a small narrow area called isthmus. The position of the gland is, it is lying against the vertebra C5, C6, C7 and T1, thoracic vertebra 1, and it is embracing the upper part of trachea and lower part of the larynx. Each lobe extending from middle of thyroid cartilage to the fourth or fifth tracheal rings. So these are the tracheal rings. These are made of hyaline cartilage. They are incomplete rings. So there are many number. So it is related up to 4 or 5 cartilaginous ring. Isthmus is related to second or fourth tracheal ring. So this is the cartilage called thyroid cartilage. Below that there is a cricoid cartilage. Then the tracheal ring starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that way. Dimensions are, each lobe is 5 centimeter, 2.5 centimeter, 2.5 centimeter, and isthmus is 1.2 into 1.2 centimeter. If you can remember, you can remember, otherwise you can leave. And each gland is weighing around 25 gram. So this is a picture where thyroid gland is being pulled to the side to show the deeper structures. So thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage can be seen here, and a ligament, Burry's ligament can be seen It's a cross section, anterior posterior aspect, and thyroid gland can be seen. Trachea, esophagus can be seen, and the green colored structure here is representing the pretracheal fascia, which is a fascia of the deep cervical, which is a deep cervical fascia, which is encircling the thyroid gland, which is incomplete on the posterior aspect of the gland. Trachea behind esophagus can be seen. Common carotid artery, internodular vein also can be seen related to thyroid gland, and surrounding that there is a fascia, and that is carotid sheath. Muscles related to the lateral aspect of the thyroid gland also can be seen, like sternothyroid, sternohyoid, omohyoid, sternocleidomastoid. Now let's see about this slide. So capsules of gland. So there are two capsules. First one is true capsule, which is condensation of the connective tissue of the gland periphery. So peripherally, the condensation of the connective tissue component of the gland is called a true capsule. So whenever you see a gland has two parts, parenchymatous part and a stromal part. Stroma is the connective tissue. So connective tissue usually on the periphery of the gland, it condenses to form the capsule that gives protection to the gland. False capsule is the green one that you can see here, is the pretracheal fascia. So it is thin along the posterior border, which is represented here as dotted lines, but thick on the inner aspect of the gland, where it forms a ligament called suspensory ligament of Bury. So this is the inner aspect of the gland where the pretracheal fascia is thickened, and that is forming the posterior suspensory ligament or Bury's ligament, which is attaching the gland to the cricoid cartilage. Cricoid cartilage is a cartilage of the larynx. So the thyroid cartilage is connected to the cartilages of the larynx. That is why the thyroid gland will move along with the movement of the larynx. Now a dense capillary plexus can be seen deep to true capsule. So this gland is an endocrine gland, so it needs a lot of blood supply. So there are a lot of capillaries networks which is lying deep to the true capsule. But to avoid the hemorrhage during operations, the thyroid gland is removed along with the true capsule. In some conditions, we may have to remove the thyroid gland, like a cancer of the thyroid gland or any tumor. So when the thyroid gland is removed, it is always better that to remove the gland along with the true capsule so that the bleeding can be stopped. The lobes of the gland are conical in shape, having apex, which is towards the thyroid cartilage, base, which is lying almost at the level of 4th or 5th tracheal rings, three surfaces: lateral surface, medial surface, a posterolateral surface, and two borders: anterior border, which is ill defined, posterior border, which is very well defined, separating medial surface from the posterolateral surface. Posterior border separating medial surface from posterolateral surface. Let's see this picture where the apex of the thyroid gland can be seen, which is covered by some muscles, sternothyroid, originating from sternum, inserted to the thyroid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage has an oblique line to which some of the muscles are attached. So one is sternothyroid. There are other muscles also can be seen here: sternohyoid, which is originating from the sternum, attaching to the hyoid bone. Hyoid bone is lying above the thyroid cartilage. Let's talk about the apex. So it is directed upwards, limited superiorly by the attachment of sternothyroid muscle to the oblique line of thyroid cartilage. The base is at the level of 4th or 5th tracheal rings. The lateral or superficial surface is convex. It is covered by some muscles. Sternohyoid, originating from the sternum, inserted to the hyoid bone. Superior belly of omohyoid. Omohyoid. Omo means shoulder, so it is originating from the shoulder. It has an intermediate tendon. Then it has a next belly, which is called superior belly. Superior belly is inserted to the hyoid bone. So superior belly is related to the lateral surface of the thyroid gland. Sternothyroid. Sternothyroid is a muscle which is originating from the sternum, inserted to the thyroid cartilage, which we already seen before, and anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid is originating from the sternum and the clavicle. So sternocleido, cleido means clavicle, inserted to the mastoid process. So anterior border of it is also related to the lateral surface of the thyroid gland. Medial surface is here. It's related to two tubes, two muscles, two nerves. The two tubes here are trachea and the esophagus. So this is a posterior view of the thyroid cartilage and associated structures. So medial surface is embracing the trachea in front, esophagus behind. So parathyroid glands also can be seen. So the two tubes are the food pipe and the wind pipe. Wind pipe is trachea and the food pipe is esophagus. Two muscles which are related here are inferior constrictor muscle. Inferior constrictor muscle is a muscle which is forming the pharynx. Pharynx is a tube which is behind nose, mouth and the larynx. So it is made of constrictors muscles, superior, middle and inferior constrictor muscle. So inferior constrictor muscle is forming the relation with the thyroid gland here. Another muscle which can be seen from the front, anterior view, cricothyroid, connecting cricoid cartilage to the thyroid cartilage. I said this is the thyroid cartilage and this cartilage is cricoid cartilage. Below you have the trachea. So the trachea starts from the lower border of cricoid cartilage. So the tracheal rings 1, 2, 3 will start from that area. So this is cricoid cartilage. This is thyroid cartilage. Coming to the nerves, there are two nerves, external laryngeal nerve and recurrent laryngeal nerve. External laryngeal nerve is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of vagus nerve. Recurrent laryngeal nerve is again a branch of vagus nerve. The posterolateral surface is related to carotid sheath. So this is a posterolateral surface which has relations such as this artery, common carotid artery and internodular vein, and I said they are covered by a fascia, that is carotid sheath. Carotid sheath is derived from the deep cervical fascia. Deep cervical fascia here has got three parts: investing layer, tracheal, pretracheal layer and prevertebral layer. In this, investing layer and the pretracheal layer together forms carotid sheath. Now the borders, anterior border is thin and it is ill defined. Posterior border is thick and rounded, separating medial surface from the posterolateral surface. So blood supply, first one is arterial supply, supplied by superior thyroid artery and inferior thyroid artery. Superior thyroid artery is a branch of external carotid artery, supplying the gland on the upper aspect. Inferior thyroid artery is a branch from the subclavian artery, supplies the lower aspect of the gland. Both of these arteries unite. Now the venous drainage by three veins: superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein, inferior thyroid vein. Superior thyroid vein drains the upper aspect of the gland, drains into internal jugular vein, or it can drain into common facial vein, which is a vein seen in the lower aspect of the face or on the upper aspect of the neck. Whereas the middle thyroid vein that drains into internal jugular vein, the lower one, inferior thyroid vein, drains the lower aspect of the gland and drains into left brachiocephalic vein. Brachiocephalic vein is formed by joining internal jugular vein and the subclavian vein. So this is left brachiocephalic vein. On the right side, right internal jugular vein, right subclavian vein joins to form right brachiocephalic vein. The right brachiocephalic vein is smaller while comparing to the left brachiocephalic vein. So the inferior thyroid veins, both of them, right and left, drains into left brachiocephalic vein. Whereas the middle thyroid veins, on the right side it drains into right internal jugular vein, left side it drains into left internal jugular vein, so as the superior thyroid veins. Nerve supply. This is sympathetic trunk, cervical sympathetic trunk, having the ganglia. So the nerves are derived mainly from the middle cervical ganglia and partly from the superior and inferior cervical ganglia. They are vasoconstrictors. That means they constrict the blood vessels which are supplying the gland. The endocrine control of this gland is more important than the nerve supply. So the endocrine secretion from the thyroid gland is hormonally regulated by pituitary gland through thyroid stimulating hormone. So pituitary gland secretes thyroid stimulating hormone that can act on thyroid gland. Let's see the different cells that is seen in the thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is made of some cells which are secretory in nature, follicular cells. So this is a histological diagram of thyroid gland, where the thyroid gland can be seen as lot of follicles of different shapes, and inside the follicle there are colloid, and each of the follicle is lined by some cells. They are called follicular cells, and they secrete triiodothyronin and tetraiodothyronin, T3 and T4. T4 is also called thyroxine, which stimulate basal metabolic rate. So basal metabolic rate is increased physical growth and the mental growth of the individual. Parafollicular cells, as the name suggests, parafollicular. Para means near. So near the follicle there are some cells, or between the follicles there are some cells called parafollicular cells or C cells. There are fewer and light cells which lies between the follicle. They secrete thyrocalcitonin. Thyrocalcitonin, which promotes deposition of calcium salts in skeletal and other tissues and tends to produce hypocalcemia. So what the thyrocalcitonin does is that they reduce the blood calcium level. So they take the calcium from the blood and deposits the calcium in the skeletal tissue. So if there is an increased amount of calcitonin in the body, that can decrease the blood calcium level. Let's talk about the histology of thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is covered by a capsule. Capsules sense its septa trabeculae that divides the gland into smaller lobules. Each lobule has thyroid follicle. So these are the follicles which are seen in a follicle, which are seen in a lobule. It's a magnified diagram where the follicles can be seen. So each lobule has aggregation of follicles. Each follicle is lined by follicular cells which are resting on basement membrane. The inner aspect of each follicle has got a homogeneous material called colloid. Colloid is the raw material for production of thyroid hormones, and the follicular cells are the one which are going to produce the thyroid hormones like T3 and T4. Now, follicular cells vary in shape depending on the level of their activity. Normally, the cells are cuboidal, colloid is moderate in amount. So, when we describe the follicular cells have three entities, or they may acquire three different shapes according to the activity of the gland. So what do you mean by that? That means, I said the follicular cells are the one which are producing the thyroid hormones, and the raw material is the colloid. And here I forgot to tell you one thing, that this is the only endocrine gland which takes a, a nutrition or a substance from outside the body to produce the hormones. Usually your endocrine glands do not require anything from outside the body, but whereas here thyroid gland needs iodine to produce the thyroid hormones. So that is one peculiarity of thyroid gland. Now let's see the cells here, follicular cells. So I said follicular cells are producing the thyroid hormones, and the raw material is colloid. So let's see three conditions. When the thyroid gland is inactive, that means when it is not producing any hormones, the cells here, follicular cells, are squamous, and the colloid will be more. The amount of the colloid will be more because it is not utilized. Now when the gland is a moderate active stage, the cells here changes into cuboidal, and the colloid is utilized, so the amount of the colloid will be in moderate amount. Whereas when the gland is actively producing thyroid hormones, the cells become columnar, cuboidal to columnar, and since they are taking up the colloid, the amount of the colloid will be very less. So there are three possibilities. So when inactive, so you can see here this is an inactive thyroid gland where the cells are squamous and the colloid is filling up a follicle. And when the gland is active here, it becomes cuboidal to columnar, and the amount of the colloid is scanty. So different follicles may show different levels of activity. Now the spaces between the follicles are filled by stroma, connective tissue component, made up of connective tissue component, and which has a lot of gaps in between where you have capillaries and lymphatics. Yes, capillaries are required here because it's an endocrine gland, so it needs to secrete its hormones to the blood. So there are a lot of capillaries. Apart from that, or apart from the follicular cells, thyroid gland contains C cells. So this is one follicle. So between the follicles there are C cells or parafollicular cells which are lying in the interval between the follicles. As we can see here, parafollicular cells, C cells. So this is an embryology of thyroid gland that will be taken later. Let's see the next gland which are associated with thyroid gland. They are parathyroid glands. So parathyroid glands are in pair: superior pair of parathyroid gland, inferior pair of parathyroid glands. So they are lying in the posterior border of thyroid gland, and they secrete a hormone called parathormone, which controls the metabolism of calcium and phosphorus along with thyrocalcitonin. So there are two hormones which are regulating the calcium metabolism, calcium regulation: calcitonin, which is produced by thyroid gland, and parathormone, which is produced by parathyroid gland. Now the function of parathormone and the calcitonin are opposite. We will see that in detail. Now the parathyroid gland is oval in shape or lentiform, measuring about 6 into 4 into 2 and almost size of the split pea. Each gland is weighing around 50 milligram. Position, we know the position. Here is a posterior view on the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland. Parathyroid glands are placed. So there's a clear-cut mark where you can exactly point out the parathyroid gland in relation to the thyroid gland. So that is the anastomotic artery that is connecting superior thyroid artery and inferior thyroid artery. So there is an anastomotic artery which connects superior and inferior thyroid artery. So usually the parathyroid glands are lying along with the anastomotic artery. So this is a guide for the surgeons to find out, to locate parathyroid gland, because I said sometimes we need to remove the thyroid gland from the body due to some reasons. So in those cases, the parathyroid glands should not be removed. It should be kept in this position. So we need to find out the position of parathyroid glands. So this anastomotic artery will guide. If you remove the parathyroid glands, that is dangerous, because parathyroid glands are vital to the body, whereas thyroid gland is not vital. So that's the difference. So size doesn't matter. Even though parathyroid gland is small, it is the vitest. It is vital to the body. Let's see the vascular supply. Parathyroid glands receives rich blood supply from inferior thyroid artery and anastomotic channel that connects superior and inferior thyroid artery. The veins and the lymphatics of the glands are associated with those of thyroid and the thymus. So the veins which are draining the thyroid and the thymus. Thymus is another gland which is situated on the anterior aspect of the neck and also the superior mediastinum, thorax. So the veins which are draining thyroid and the thymus will also drain the parathyroid glands. Nerve supply. So vasomotor nerves which are derived from middle and superior cervical ganglia directly supplies the parathyroid gland, or through inferior thyroid plexus. They are group of nerves which are seen near the gland. Parathyroid activity is controlled by blood calcium levels. Low blood calcium levels stimulate and high levels inhibit activity of the gland. So I said this is an endocrine gland. So endocrine glands are usually controlled by the blood level of the, here it is calcium. So nerves are not having much role in activity of the endocrine gland. So here let's see here what happens. Here parathyroid gland is activated. When it is activated, when the blood calcium level is low. So what it does exactly, parathyroid glands or the parathormone? Parathormone takes the calcium from the skeletal system and deposit it in the blood. So it is just opposite action of calcitonin. What calcitonin does? Calcitonin takes the calcium from the blood and deposits it in the muscular system or the skeletal system. So whenever there is a low blood calcium level, that can stimulate the parathormone. Whereas when there is a high level of the calcium level in the blood, that inhibit the parathyroid gland. So calcitonin and the parathormone, they act in opposite directions. But it should be in a homeostasis. It should be in homeostasis. It is not that one hormone is produced in more and the other one is low. Then the homeostasis will be lost. Suppose let's think parathormone, if it is more, what happens? It takes all the calcium from the skeletal system. So the skeletal system become weak, the bone become weak, it can get fractured, and this calcium will be deposited in the blood. So if it is deposited in the blood, it directly goes into different parts. It can spoil your kidney, it can produce renal stones, isn't it? So both should be equally controlled. This is an embryology of parathyroid gland. So we'll take that later. This is histology. Now you can see that the parathyroid gland is located in the thyroid gland, in the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland. These are the follicles of thyroid gland. So the parathyroid gland has a capsule which is surrounding the parathyroid gland, and small septa extends into the deeper aspect, dividing it into small lobules. Capsule can be seen here. Now the parenchyma of the gland is made of cells that are arranged in cords. So there are linear arrangement of the cells called as cords. There are numerous sinusoids which are present in between the cords. They contain the blood. And the cells of the parathyroid gland are of two types: chief cells, which are basophilic cells, also called as principal cells, chief cells, and oxyphil cells, which are larger while comparing to the chief cells, oxyphil cells, which are eosinophilic. So chief cells are much more in number than oxyphil cells. So number wise, chief cells are more, whereas the size wise, the oxyphil cells are bigger than the chief cells. Chief cells are seen to be more round cells with vesicular nuclei. Their cytoplasm is clear and either mildly eosinophil or basophilic. It is more towards a basophilic stain, a blue stain. Oxyphil cells are much larger and has granules, and they takes the acidic stain, so it is eosinophilic. Their nuclei are smaller and stain more easily than those of chief cells. So their nuclei stains better than the chief cells. But remember, their size is big, oxyphil cells, whereas chief cells size is small, but number wise chief cells are more than the oxyphil cells. So that's it. Thank you.